Like, it would be one thing if that was built up, like, because Thunderbird, they grow over the years. I think at the start of the graph they show in the blog post, they still had a lot. It's like 700,000, but it took them like 4 or 5 years to get to that point.
Yes.
And if that happened, like, yeah, then you could expand your efforts. But if 1 year it was just like, oh, here's an extra 2 million, like,
That's almost a problem, right? Especially for a nonprofit.
mm,
And that's the situation KDEEV found itself in. We got these large one-time donations from, the crypto Pineapple Fund and Handshake Fund and stuff. And all of a sudden, the organization said, oh, we have to actually spend this money.
mm,
We have thus far not spent an amount of money anywhere near this. What do we do?
mm,
If you're a for-profit business, okay, it's one thing. But if you're a nonprofit and you're legally required not to be stockpiling money, it kind of becomes an urgent issue to deal with.
mm.
And all of this was a little bit before my time on the board, so I kind of know what's going on from the outsider perspective there. But I know that it's been sort of an ongoing, been an ongoing challenge to spend all that money, and it's what you have to do. When you fundraise and you're successful at fundraising, you got to spend it on the project.
Well, that's actually leads me into something really important. So KDEV is a German non-profit. And when people talk about non-profit, a lot of people might understand it from, say, the GNOME perspective, which is in California, if I recall correctly. Yeah.
I don't actually know which state it is, but it's
I know
somewhere
it's in the
USA.
US. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's California.
Okay.
With it being a German non-profit, are there any, like, weird specifics there because it's in Germany that make it different to handle, or that maybe
Yeah, I
complicate
mean,
things?
the legal structures are both the same and different, right? Like if you look throughout the world, most of the sort of Western, Euro-American world has largely settled on similar legal structures
Mhm.
for all these things. You've got companies, you've got corporations, you've got nonprofits, you've got this, you've got that, but the details are very slightly different in the case of everyone. In the case of the German nonprofit, there is a much stronger need to uh, not stockpile money compared to American nonprofits. That's one of the small differences that I'm aware of. I know the GNOME Foundation has their own quirks and challenges due to the exact legal regime that they operate under. That's something I'm not very familiar with. I think you'd probably have to ask one of them, but I suspect they would give you a similar answer and say, yeah, there's just like these weird tiny little things that affect how it works. So like in general, yes, nonprofits are all the same, but specifically, you kind of have to know the like exact tiny little thing that matters.
There is one very important difference, though, that I do want to touch on, because, again, this is another one that people always bring up. I'm sure you've seen this a bunch of times. Why don't you accept crypto donations? I know it's in the FAQ, but a lot of people just refuse to read the FAQ.
It's right there. This is a German law thing. So if you hold crypto donations, you are considered to be speculating, and you're not allowed to do that as a German nonprofit. So we literally can't, take a crypto donation, immediately convert it to euros, and then have that money. It's just not something that, those who have looked at the law said that we can do. KDEV does have lawyers. We have a legal firm that we contract with, and I believe this guidance does come from them. So speaking personally, despite being on the board, I regret to inform you that I'm not an expert in German law, but I do have faith in those who are paid to do that. So my understanding is that it's just a legal risk thing. It's not something we can do. And I know it's annoying to people. Just, every week or month or so, we occasionally get a direct email saying, hey, why no crypto? What's your deal? Why do you hate crypto? And we always have to say, I'm very sorry, but we just can't. Sorry. It's just the way it is.
If you really want to donate through crypto, find a developer that you like, and then see if they take crypto directly.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Because a lot of developers out there are willing to be sponsored, and many are even crypto enthusiasts themselves. So yeah, that's a good option.
Well, in that
Good
way,
idea.
also, if you have a specific piece of work you want to fund and you want to fund the specific developer, the money's more likely to go to the thing that you want. If it goes to the EV, it's going to go to Academy. It's going to go to funding this project and that project. And maybe that's what you want to do with the donation. That's why you're donating to the EV. But if you have... I was
This
gonna.
gets to an interesting topic, though, which is how much money do you actually need to sponsor a feature? And I also want to address this because I often get the sense that people don't have an accurate assessment here.
Okay.
And that's completely understandable because many people work on open source on a volunteer basis. And so when you see people doing work either essentially for free or actually for free, it can be easy to think, oh, if people are willing to do work for free, then clearly they must be willing to do work for slightly more than free, right? But no, it's not the case. Because when you do work for free, you're working on what you want. It's a hobby, it's not a job. The moment money comes in, it becomes a job. And you have job related annoyances like dealing with the client, getting an accurate spec from the client, working on something maybe you don't want to do. Now there are deadlines. You have to figure out your tax situation. If you're not already set up as a freelancer or a small business, you're going to have to do that. Like all of a sudden, it is not a fun hobby anymore. It's a job. And if you want to motivate somebody to work on something on an it's a job basis, pizza money is not going to do it, right? Because it's not worth it. If somebody says, hey, I'll give you $20 to work on this feature, you'll say, okay, no thanks, because it's going to take me so many hours to like do all the associated things. But if somebody says, hey, I'll give you $2,000 to work on this feature, then you start to think, okay, maybe that's reasonable. Maybe I can do that. So this is, I think, the real challenge is it's very difficult for people who are not wealthy to fund individual features. And I know crowdfunding often gets brought up. Frankly, I think it is probably something we are more in need of in our space because a person who says, I have 30 euros I'm willing to put into this, it's nothing on its own. But if combined with many other people who have the same amount of money, it could be something. But then, of course, if you're talking about crowdfunding, now you need a crowdfunding platform. You need somebody to do it. You need somebody to hold funds in escrow. You need policies about this. What's the tax situation look like? What if the feature never gets developed? What if the feature gets developed, but then is later reverted? What does that look like? Uh-oh, this is suddenly very, very, very complicated. So it's just really important to understand that whenever money gets involved, the level of complexity doesn't increase linearly, it increases like exponentially. So the world of, developers scratching their own itch and having fun is just a super different world from paying developers to work on the features that you actually want. You have to think about it in a totally different way.
I think people really underestimate the value of wanting to fix a problem that you personally have. And if you have an issue with, like, say there's some issue you have with, I don't know, Plasma, what's a random, you have an issue with the way the tiling editor works. And it's like, even if it's some giant issue that might take like a month of work, if you personally have that issue, like, you can, like, that's a very motivating thing to go and fix. But if it's then a feature that you don't have, but it's somebody else wants you to do it, it's like, I think a lot of people